Hello everyone, my name is Daria and welcome back to my channel. And it has been quite some time since I last sat here and spoke with you all. I have been leaving you guys hanging for weeks, if not months now, and I sincerely apologize for that. Life has been crazy. I recently moved across states. I am now in a new apartment, my first ever apartment, all on my own. That is why it sounds so echoey. I literally have no furniture. I'm sleeping on a mattress on the ground. And beyond that, I've just been dealing with a lot of technical issues, which brings me to this video. This is not the video that I had planned to put up for you guys. I was recently hoping to come back and post my reactions to episodes 6, 7, and 8 of Bridgerton season 3. However, I lost all my footage. My hard drive completely gave up on me. Just a few days ago, right as I was sitting down to edit, I lost footage, months and months of footage, and honestly, if I talk about it for too long, I'll start crying. But yeah, I'm in the middle of paying an exorbitant amount of money to try to get that footage back. At the moment, the only place where you can find any of my reactions to episodes 6 through 8 is on my Patreon. I did upload my full-length reactions, unedited reactions to episodes 6 and 7. So for this video, I've decided I'm going to do just a general overview and give you guys my opinions on Bridgerton season 3 in general, particularly focusing on the storylines and plots that were seen in episodes 6 through 8. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through everything, and this is obviously not going to be like as chaotic and fun as like a raw reaction is, but I hope that, you know, I don't know, I appease you guys. I don't know. I just really feel bad. I feel bad. I have a list of the characters. I'm going to go through each one and talk about their plot points, some of the scenes that I really enjoyed, and some of the scenes that I didn't quite enjoy. But before we go any further, I want to go ahead and thank the sponsor of today's video, aka the sponsor of my dreams, and that is Parade. You guys don't understand, because I have been looking and eyeing Parade and their products for so long now. The second they said that they wanted to work together, immediately yes. Immediately yes. So as someone who possesses what some people might call a more robust chest, I feel like I'm constantly having to choose between like style and comfort, but with Parade, I don't have to do that anymore. I particularly want to talk about their vintage soft triangle bralette, which I have right here. As I said, robust chest, robust. Okay, and this is in the color Peach Fizz Pop, which I love saying out loud. Like, literally, is that not the cutest name? And then look at the color of this bra. Like, look at the design. Like, I don't think you guys understand, because literally my entire life, I've wanted to own a bralette, okay? And I could never find one that fit me, that wasn't like literally squeezing the life out of the girls the entire time I was wearing it, that wasn't like rolling up all the time. This is literally the bralette of my dreams. I don't think you guys understand, because look, you have the thick band, which you can never find with most bras and bralettes. So, you know, praise the powers that be and praise Parade. And like, I just love the color. I love the little like maroon detailing, and it has like a thicker band, so it's not like constantly like rolling up and like poking and prodding me. Another thing that I feel like I need to praise Parade and this bralette for is the fact that it literally feels like I'm not wearing it. It's a mix of like everything that I said before, but then also like the softness of the material. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I am always painfully aware that I am wearing a bra. Like, I can feel it poking me and prodding me and pinching me. Like, it's never like a fully comfortable experience. And I think that all my big titty girls know what I'm talking about. But with this one, I literally feel like I'm not wearing anything. Also, it's not just this bralette that is like a godsend. I'm currently wearing their Replay triangle bralette in black. And once again, all the same praise. A thick band, thick straps. It feels like so soft, and I literally feel like I'm wearing nothing. It feels like I'm wearing a cloud, and there's support, and there's comfort, and there's style. Literally, all the boxes are being checked. So if any of you want to try some Parade products for yourself, which I obviously highly recommend that you do if it wasn't obvious already, you can use my code FULL50 for 50% off the entire site. There's no minimum amount required for you to use this code and discount, and styles tend to sell out pretty quickly, so I would make haste if I were you. Thank you so much to Parade for sponsoring this video, and without any further ado, let's get into the episode. So yeah, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And let's start with our leads of the season. And let's begin with our primary lead, Miss Penelope Bridgerton, nee Featherington. Oof, Penelope. Probably the most divisive character in the entire Bridgerton fandom. And I always feel weird when I talk about Penelope because I feel like people tend to speak about her as if she's some kind of like otherworldly like saint, or she's like this horrible villain, and I lie somewhere in the middle in that I don't think she's either. And I actually, this is my hot take, I think that if you see her as purely a victim or purely a villain, then you're both doing the same thing, which is dehumanizing her and not seeing her as the full character that she is. The thing I want to talk about with Penelope, the thing that kind of, I think, defined a lot of my frustrations with Bridgerton season 3, especially the back half, is the way that Lady Whistledown was handled. I do not think it was handled well at all, and honestly, the more I think about it, the more annoyed I get, because I feel like the back half of the season, especially episodes 6 through 8, was a masterclass in trying to, like, I don't know, is it too much to say gaslight the audience into thinking that Lady Whistledown is something that she never was before in the show? Let me explain. For the last 2 seasons of Bridgerton, Lady Whistledown has primarily been positioned as this narrative device, plot device, that stirs up a lot of the drama and a lot of the conflict within the seasons. Penelope has done some really shitty things with Lady Whistledown. The 2 things that come to mind, I'm sure, are the way that she dealt with Marina and the way that she dealt with Eloise. Now, I have unpopular opinions when it comes to that because I think that what she did to Marina was fucked up, like way more fucked up than what she did to Eloise. I don't really want to rehash the same discourse that we've been having for so long. I just want us to all agree that what she did was fucked up. Because it was. It doesn't matter the reasoning, it doesn't matter the motivation, like it was the thing that she did to both those women was fucked up. For me, there's just something so interesting about Penelope Featherington, who has been bullied, who has been ignored, who has been treated so terribly by the people of the Ton and by her family. And in one sense, she is like this victim, and then in the other sense, she's also like the biggest bully of the Ton as Lady Whistledown, and she's like both these things at the same time, and both of them inform one another, and that's just like, that's so fascinating to me. Like, she is a fascinating character. I believe that she and Anthony are some of the most well-rounded and complex and interesting characters on this entire show, objectively. You don't have to love either of those characters, but we need to be honest with one another, okay? Objectively, they're the best written. And I think what's so disappointing to me is that I feel like the intrigue of Penelope's character and the complexity of it was, there was an attempt to erase all of that nuance in episodes 6 through 8 by positioning Lady Whistledown as this like purely empowering feminist type thing. And listen, if we're looking surface level, it is something, you know, incredibly powerful to be able to make your own money as a woman at that time, that she is kind of taking this thing that the whole Ton does, gossip and talk shit about one another, and she's wielding that power. Like, I understand that completely. However, it doesn't negate the harm that she's done. And I feel like the show, even though they had Penelope kind of go like, oh, whoopsie, sorry I did that a couple times, it never really acknowledged what she did. Like, there were just these kinds of like blanket apology statements, and then she would be like, yeah, I'm sorry, but Whistledown's power, and I didn't have any power, and I wanted to feel it, and like, you don't know what it feels like, blah, 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 to like be ignored and shit. And I just, there were so many speeches throughout episodes 6 through 8 of Penelope where she was like talking about how she felt ignored and like sidelined, and how Whistledown, you know, was such a powerful thing for her. In episode 7, where she's talking to Colin at their wedding breakfast. And that's the other thing. They were trying to gaslight the audience and Colin, because Colin, I'm gonna get to him as well, my man had an absolute right to be angry with her and to want her to not be Whistledown. The way that the show was trying to frame it as if Colin just had to get over his like, you know, jealousy towards Penelope of Whistledown, and that like he needed to just get over the fact that like he didn't like that she was Whistledown, was something so crazy to me, because I'm like, no, like he has legitimate reasons for her not to be Whistledown and not to want her to continue with that. Like, why are you trying to make it out like he's the bad guy here? And of course, the, you know, worst example of Penelope's cheesy speeches is in episode 8. Let me just say, if you've watched any of my Bridgerton videos, because I've made so many, over God knows how long since I've read all the Bridgerton books, since I read romancing Mr. Featherington. I so confidently stood like 10 toes down and said they are not doing that scene. There is no way. They will never. It's so stupid. It doesn't work. It can't work, blah, blah, blah. This show made a clown out of me. Actually, I'm sorry. No, this show is the clown for including that scene. Because are you serious? You're telling me that the most nuclear level drama and conflict that this show has ever seen, 3 seasons worth of drama and intrigue and what the fuck is gonna happen, is wrapped up in one scene. Penelope makes a little sort of blanket speech to everybody, the queen smiles and smirks, and we're all good. We're all good. Now listen, I know that at the end of that episode, they kind of acknowledge that, you know, maybe the Ton is kind of just like saying like, okay, like whatever, but like maybe in season 4, we're gonna see some more ramifications. But at the moment, that was stupid as fuck. I'm sorry. And that entire speech and that entire scene brings me to a kind of general gripe that I have with Bridgerton, because they have a pattern, okay? And the pattern started creeping up in Bridgerton season 2. The pattern being that this show will push off drama to the very last second and then resolve it in the most, like, the only way I can think of it is pathetic. Like, that is a pathetic attempt at trying to resolve the Whistledown, like, drama. Like, what? And it started back when, like, Anthony and Kate got together and there was, like, the wedding drama and then the queen just forgave them. Like, is that our formula now? Is every season gonna be like that, where we're pushing off the drama to, like, episodes 6 and 7? We're getting a rushed my list popped off. We're getting a rushed resolution at the end of the season. At the very end, the leads get together, everything's hunky-dory and everything is solved because the queen says so. In season 2, it was dodgy, okay? In season 2, I was kind of side-eyeing it. I was like, okay, so you talked about how all the families are going to be ruined if Kate and Anthony get together and if the wedding gets called off, but then the queen thinks that Kate and Anthony are cute and she smiles and it's fine. Like, I love Anthony, so, like, I ate it up, but, like, still, in the back of my mind, in the logical, objective part of my mind, I was like, that's stupid. And then now we get to Whistledown, which, like I said, nuclear level fucking drama. You need, like, federal government clearance, okay, to deal with this fucking drama. And you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna push off the drama. When did he find out? End of episode 6, Colin finds out. And then you have to rush, and listen, Whistledown is not just something between Colin and Penelope. There is not a single person in the main cast, and even, you know, the side characters, who has not been insulted and impacted by Whistledown in some way. To just not acknowledge that, not deal with that, to have everybody just stand there and smile and clap for Penelope at the end. And this is the thing, I know that some people can say, like, oh, you know, it's just like a fantasy show, it's escapist, it's fluffy romance, you don't have to think about it that hard. And on one hand, I get that. But at the same time, it's just, you can't coast on that for so long. Okay, you can't keep doing this. You can't, because there's no stakes anymore. If Lady Whistledown, if Penelope can get away with that, and the queen is cool with it, then nothing fucking matters from now on. When Benedict, you know, is going through his, you know, angst of not being able to be with a woman who is working class, when any of these people have any other issue and are worried about, you know, the wrath of the Ton, it's not gonna mean anything. There's not gonna be any stakes, because we've seen that it never fucking matters. It never matters, because the Bridgertons are always protected and nothing can touch them. If Lady Whistledown can't bring them to their knees, then nothing will. And you can't have a show without stakes. Not even a fluffy romance. Like every story, no matter what kind of story it is, needs stakes and needs tension. And at this point, I don't think there is any anymore. I don't know where they're gonna get it from. And even if there is, it's gonna feel manufactured and fake. So let's go ahead now and talk about Colin. But we can't really talk about Colin without also talking about Pen. But it doesn't go vice versa, because I feel like in this season, more than any season previously, I really got the feeling that this was not Colin and Penelope's story. Like, this was Penelope's story, and Colin was heavily featured. I feel like Colin is not really that strong of a character on his own, to be honest. I was watching the season back, and I noticed the moments in which I found him most intriguing and most interesting were when he was, like, fawning over Pen. I don't know if I personally find him interesting as an individual. And I feel like there's a lot of reasons for that, but I feel like one of the main reasons is because I didn't really get a strong understanding of what his struggles were and what his weaknesses were. In the first half of the season, you know, it seemed pretty clear to me, like, okay, he's putting on this performance of being a rake. He, you know, and then there's the whole thing of Penelope being like, I love you the way that you are. And that kind of carried, you know, into the final episodes. You know, Pen came to him at one point in episode 8 and was like, I just need you to love me and stand beside me. But then in the second half of the season, they were also introducing this thing of like Colin's writing suddenly became very important again. Like, it was mentioned in the first half of the season, but then it suddenly became super important in the second half. And then there was Colin admitting that he felt like jealous of her and stuff. I don't dislike Colin by any means, but I also, when I take him out of the romance that he's a part of, when I take him away from Pen and I look at him as an individual on his own, I don't know if I find him as compelling as I do in Anthony or George. Like, I take those men outside of their relationships and I feel like I know who they are as a person. And I know their complexities, their weaknesses, you know, what is it that drives them to do what they do. Whereas with Colin, I don't really feel that way. And it's crazy that I say that because I feel like there were times when like the show was really trying to hammer home, like, Colin is this way. Like, I'm thinking particularly of the speech and little talk that Colin had with his mother, where she said that you're always putting other people first. And I feel like there was a lot of that with Colin, like a lot of like very obvious, like, Colin is this way and Colin doesn't, you know, is putting on a performance and Colin is doing this. And like, even though it was so obvious, I still don't know if I bought it. It's a very weird thing. I don't know if anyone else feels similarly, but maybe it's that thing where like the show is trying to tell you who someone is, but you're not showing me. Next, I want to go ahead and talk about the Featherington family in general, who became really big highlights for me in the second half of the season. I have to say that in that second half, I was so much more invested in what was going on between the Featherington women, particularly Portia and Penelope, than I was invested in what was going on between Colin. I was riveted, you know? I think that the whole thing of like Portia and Penelope coming to realize that they're very similar was fascinating to me. I think the whole storyline of the older sisters, especially Prudence, feeling like, you know, she's seeing her mother favor her sister after so long, and like for so long Prudence was kind of like maybe the more favored one. I thought that was really fascinating. And then I did tear up a little bit at the end during the ball when Penelope like paid for everything and yet she gave the credit to their mother. I thought that was really, really sweet. And like I said, like I was getting like fucking emotional over these, like the Featheringtons, which, I mean, if you told that to my season 2 self, who like absolutely couldn't stand their asses, I would be shocked. Next, I want to talk about Eloise, and I guess also I should talk about Eloise and Cressida kind of in tandem, mostly because I don't really have a lot to say about Eloise. She was fine this season. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I feel like I mostly want to talk about Eloise in relationship with Cressida because their friendship was so interesting to me, but it also was like fumbled so badly. I feel like their friendship breakup happened so quickly, and I really thought that we were going to see Eloise attempt to be friends with both like Cressida and Penelope at one point. I was wondering if she was going to have to end up like choosing between them and if it would be like a really difficult decision for her. But it seems like they just like quickly disposed of that relationship so that we could get back to Penelope and Eloise, which, don't get me wrong, like I do really enjoy that friendship, but it feels like the whole Cressida and Eloise thing was merely a plot device, and then when they no longer needed it, they dropped it. And I didn't like that. I really enjoyed Cressida this season. I think it's so interesting to look at her as like the foil to Penelope, because, you know, Penelope and her, walk with me on this, because I know some people are going to be mad when I say this, her and Penelope are kind of similar. Like, Cressida does all of her shit talking and gossiping like in front of people, and she's a bit of a bitch, you know, like out in the open. But Penelope does a lot of the same things in her column. In many ways, Cressida, like Penelope, was in this really difficult situation and was trying to do everything that she could to get out of it, like in the same way that Penelope was in that situation with Eloise. Like, she had no good choice to make. Like, in some ways, Cressida was also in the situation where she had no other choice but to pretend that she was Whistledown to try to get that money, you know? And I feel like if we're gonna understand Penelope, we have to understand Cressida in some ways. I think one of my favorite moments in the entire season was when she came for Colin's neck, where he was talking about like, oh, you know, like, I know what it's like to be, what did he fucking say? Some bullshit about how he knows how she feels and how lonely he felt on his travels, and, you know, isn't it so great though, because you have, you know, family to stand behind you even in your weakest moments, whatever. She shut that shit down so fast. Honestly, I think Cressida is one of the storylines that I'm most intrigued to see in the following season, because we left her leaving with her aunt for like the countryside or whatever, and I'd be very interested to see if we actually get like a full redemption arc. I feel like they were kind of starting with it in this season, and then they brought her back to being a villain, although I feel like she was a villain that we could still like understand and empathize with, at least for me. So I'm interested to see like what they do with her next season and where they take her character. Next, I want to talk about Francesca, who quickly became one of my favorite characters in the entire Bridgerton universe within like an episode of me knowing her. My top 4, by the way, these are the only ones that I like really have strong feelings towards, and like those are my faves. Like, don't fucking talk about them in my presence unless you're praising them. Kate, obviously. Anthony, obviously. And then we have Fran and Benedict. Like, those are my 4, okay? Like S tier, like no one is touching them kind of a thing. Francesca and John were definitely one of the highlights of the season for me. If you've watched my video where I read all the Bridgerton books, you know that Francesca's book is my favorite. And because of that, I had a lot of people asking me about my opinion when it comes to the change regarding Michaela. And let me like put my phone down because I've been holding it. Let me say something. I liked it. When I first saw it, I was gagged. Gooped and gagged. I watched it again and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be good. I now love it. I loved it. Do you understand the potential of having a woman as a rake? Do you understand the potential of when we get to Fran's season, we're gonna see Michaela as like the notorious rake of the underground like queer scene in London? Do you understand the implications of that shit? Also, she only had one line, but it was so book Michael coded. The whole like, oh, whatever you've heard about me, like, trust me, it's worse. Is that not something that Michael would say? Is that not, like, exactly what he would fucking say? Like, yes, she has the essence. Literally the only thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way and that I didn't quite like about the introduction of Michaela was the negation of a season-long storyline of love looking different for different people. You know, the entire time Violet and Francesca were going back and forth, you know, Violet was saying that she doesn't really know if John is her match. And then we have that scene in episode 8 at the wedding where she kind of acknowledges, like, you know, when I first saw your father, I could barely speak my name. And then, of course, when Fran sees Michaela, that's exactly what happens. And I don't know, it bothered me. Here's the thing, because I remember when I finished the season, I was thinking that if Fran is a lesbian, then it could be a really cool take on compulsory heterosexuality, because there was that scene, like, when her and John kissed, where she kind of, like, taken aback and kind of like, oh, like, that wasn't what I was expecting. So I was like, okay, well, maybe she's, like, she loves John, but she doesn't know that, you know, she could have, that it's even possible for her to have feelings for a woman. So then she sees Michaela and she's like, oh, fuck. So I was like, okay, that could be cool. But then have they confirmed that Fran is bi? I don't know. Is she bi? Is she lesbian? I think they just said that she's queer. So we'll see. Either way, it's going to be iconic and I can't wait for it. I cannot wait for that season. I know that it's been confirmed that Michaela and John are coming back for next season, and I cannot wait to see the storyline in Scotland and what goes on between all of them. I'm literally like another storyline that I'm so excited to see like what happens with them. I also want to say that the absolutely disgusting, I don't even want to call it backlash, like the harassment, the bullying, the bigotry that I've seen in response to this change. Like, I don't know if it's still like this because I don't really check the Bridgerton comments any longer, but on every single fucking post after the second part of the season dropped, people were just, it was just rampant racism and homophobia in the Bridgerton comment section on every official account. Like, it was disgusting. And I have to be honest, I feel like part of the reason I also have been hesitant to put out Bridgerton videos and have kind of been dragging my feet is because I was just like so disheartened by what I was seeing. Like, I was like, God, like, you guys fucking suck. Like, I was expecting for there to be like some like weirdos and freaks and homophobes who were gonna say some shit, but like the amount of people who were just basically saying the quiet part out loud was overwhelming. And honestly, it kind of made me distance myself from like the Bridgerton fandom, and like I just didn't want to put out content because I was like, I do not want to be I do not want to have to deal with these weirdos in my comment section. So if you are one of said weirdos and you want to like type a whole dissertation on why, you know, I'm not homophobic, but like, I think that this whole change with Michaela, blah, 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 shut up. I don't want to hear it. Don't type it out because I will be immediately deleting it. Another thing that also just made me so upset in regards to the situation is that there has not been an official response from the Bridgerton production team about this. Like, it's become this common pattern that I've seen in a lot of productions that they want to hire diversely and cast diversely, but they don't want to stand behind their actors and defend them when they're met with this racist, bigoted backlash. And it is so fucking frustrating and so disheartening for the actors, but then also for fans of color and queer fans. Like, do you know how upsetting it is to see a production just allow this shit to happen and not say anything? Yeah, I'm just disappointed. Disappointed in the fans, disappointed in the production. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more to say about that. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about my babies and my parents simultaneously all at once, Kate and Anthony. Okay, Kate and Anthony. Okay, we do not separate them. They are a package deal. If you have one, you get the other. If any of you have read the recent article on To Doom when it comes to the cast list for season 4, then you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. One of the things that just brings me so much joy is how prized Kate is in the Bridgerton family. I loved her scene with Eloise. I just thought it was so sweet. I love that she's kind of this person that maybe like the entire family goes to for advice. The small moments where Francesca called her my sister, when Benedict called her his sister, like, that family loves Kate so much, and it is definitely the whole kind of like, we tolerate our brother because we love his wife kind of thing. Like the scene where Colin comes home kind of like drunk and he just goes straight to Kate and Anthony just stands there like, literally one of my favorite moments of all time. Like, it was so iconic. And Colin is like so real for that. Like, he's so fucking real for that. Now let's go ahead and talk about the wedding episode, which is the last time that we see Anthony. Boo, I wanted more of them. Let's talk about that conversation that they had in the pews where Anthony was like, oh, I love weddings, and Kate's like, yeah, ours is perfect. Is that a joke? Because if so, it's not funny. Like, I'm not laughing. Like, you know what? And I said this in my reaction, but I'll say it again because it's so true. They really thought that they ate with that. They thought, ooh, let's give these little crumbs to the Anthony fans. Like, I bet they're gonna love this. Like, we mentioned their wedding. Not funny. Didn't laugh. The fucking audacity to mention their wedding after we didn't see it. The fucking audacity that Kate and Anthony are the only Bridgerton couple so far without a wedding. But also at the same time, I think it's been established with Bridgerton that there are no happy weddings. Besides Charlotte and George, there's been no happy weddings on this show. So maybe it's a good thing they didn't get a fucking wedding. Also, let's talk about the whole leaving for India thing. I, for one, like everybody else, like was so fucking pissed off. Like, I had to pause the video and like fucking paste when I first heard that because I was so sure that that was how they were writing them off. And I was like, Anthony Bridgerton would never. He would never take his pregnant wife to another country to give birth. He would never abandon his family like that. Like, who is that man? Because that's not Anthony Bridgerton. But then, of course, the articles came out with like Jess saying that she'd love to have them back. But then now we're like back to square one where it's up in the air where like Simone Ashley wasn't listed on the official cast list. I don't know what the fuck is going on. And I'm gonna hold back what I want to say because it could be that she's just like discussing and going through negotiations right now. But if she's not on set, if she's not listed, no. I just actually refuse to accept it. Like, it's not fucking happening. Like, you're telling me that you're gonna have Jonathan Bailey and Anthony Bridgerton back on set without his wife? Like, it's just not possible. It's not possible. Like, you're stupid if you think that you're gonna get away with that. You're not. Finally, let's go ahead and talk about Benedict, our leading man for season 4. I know that's right. Oh my gosh. First of all, by Benedict confirmed. Everyone who's been here since 2020, who's been here since season 1, who has like literally crawled through the trenches alongside me. How does it feel to win, bitch? How does it feel to be on the winning team? It feels great, personally. When he showed up to that house and he leaned in for that kiss, something in him snapped. When he kissed Paul or whatever the fuck, I forgot his name, something inside him was unleashed because he went feral, okay? No offense to Tilly, she could have not been there. Now, I will say, I do agree with some people that, like, in the final episode, they were, like, constantly cutting back to Benedict, like, fucking, like, so many times. Like, it was kind of like a palate cleanser in between scenes, which I thought was hilarious. I feel like it was a weird editing decision. I feel like it should have just been, like, an extended scene, montage of them having sex, and then that conversation in the bed, and then, like, that's it. But I was also kind of living for the constant jumping back to it. It was like, okay, all this boring stuff, drama, and now Benedict fucking. Oh, come to think of it, it's actually a hilarious editing choice. I'm gonna use this time to just kind of talk about, like, season 4, because since I last filmed, there have been leaks, which probably aren't leaks, let's be honest, they were definitely PR. But anyway, there were photos of Sophie and Benedict in the masquerade, like, ball, and first of all, Zorro, I don't know what they're doing, but, like, I'm still gonna eat it up, even though it's a ridiculous fucking costume. The sort of mask that Sophie is wearing, thank God that it's a big one, because you cannot have my man Benedict looking like an idiot trying to find a girl who's wearing, like, a teeny tiny mask, like in all these other, like, Cinderella stories. Like, thank God it actually covers, like, most of her face, so it's believable that he wouldn't recognize her. There's, like, this one picture where he's, like, kind of seems to be taking off her glove, like the slut he is. You want a bare hand touch with a woman the first night that you meet her? Whore. Do it again. The fact that the next season isn't coming out for 2 years, the fact that I'm gonna be nearly 28 when it comes out, like, I can't think about it for too long, because I just don't, like, what am I gonna do? Like, I know that this conversation is being had, like, across online spaces, but, like, how did we get to the point where you were taking 2 years to give us 8 episodes? How is that working? And then that also brings me to, like, a general sort of thing that I want to say about Bridgerton as a whole. I know I said that, like, they kind of push off these conflicts and everything kind of feels rushed in the end. I feel like the easiest fucking fix for that is to give us, like, 2 more episodes. Like, if you just gave us 2 more episodes, all of the complaints I have would probably vanish. All of the complaints that most people have would vanish. The complaints about a lack of screen time for couples and characters, the sort of rushing to resolve conflicts in these really, like messed up, like, not even satisfying ways. Like, literally just give us 2 more episodes. Like, I know you have the budget, bitch, so fucking use it. Like, maybe instead of going on these, like, worldwide press tours and, like, doing all this, like, fucking PR, you can actually, like, put it back into the show. I think a lot of us would be okay if you pulled back on the PR and gave us, like, even 1 more episode. I feel like the season was definitely, like, there's a very definitive split in it, which was only made more pronounced by the actual split in putting out the season. I feel like the first half of the season, the first 4 episodes, was very much focused on Colin and Penelope and their romance, and then the second half was more about, like, Whistledown and the family drama. I feel like in general, for me, season 3 doesn't have the same rewatchability factor that seasons 1 and 2 do. I mean, season 2 is obviously my favorite, so I'll go back and rewatch Anthony scenes. And season 1, like, I mean, there's just a certain nostalgia factor to it, and I also feel like that season was very well paced, and all of the, like, secondary plots and the main plot flowed together quite nicely in a way that we haven't really seen since. When it comes to my ranking of all the Bridgerton couples, it goes as follows. 1, we have, say it with me, Anthony. Obviously, no one is taking that #1 spot ever from them. Number 2, we have Charlotte and George, then Colin, then Simon and Daphne. Although I could just kind of tell from the way I'm reacting to, you know, the announcements of Benedict and those leaked pictures, like, I have a feeling that Benedict is coming for that number 2 spot, okay? Like, it's definitely gonna happen. So while editing this video, I realized that I was being kind of negative. I think I was really using this video as a way to talk about my critiques and vent some of my frustrations with this season. I do want to say, however, that I had a great time watching this season, especially, like, the first half. I don't dislike Pollen by any means. I think that they're adorable, and frankly, I really enjoyed them way more than I thought I was going to going into this season. Like, if any of you watched my trailer reactions, like, I had full faith that this season was going to be one of the best, if not the best Bridgerton season thus far in terms of, like, writing, not necessarily in terms of my preference, but in terms of writing. And I think unfortunately that just didn't happen, and I don't think it's Pollen's fault. I think that, like I've mentioned in this video, Bridgerton has fallen into this formula and this pattern that just isn't working any longer, and there needs to be a change. And unfortunately, this season kind of made those issues that Bridgerton has had for a while now super glaring and obvious. I also think that my frustration and disappointment with the season isn't even necessarily about the season itself and how it was written, but more so the reaction to the season and what has been exposed within the fandom. Seeing all that, and also the fact that the production continues to fail its actors, to fail to protect them, to fail to promote them in the way that they do their white counterparts, it's disappointing. I don't have the same excitement I once had for Bridgerton. I don't have the same joy that I once had for Bridgerton. I hope I don't sound overly dramatic, but I just wanted to be honest with my feelings because I know that so many of you found me because of Bridgerton. So many of you watch my Bridgerton content more than anything else. And I am really grateful to this small community. But like I said, at the moment, my passion for Bridgerton isn't there. I hope I get it back. I am hoping that season 4 will bring it back. I'm hoping I can come back to this show with the same love and passion I once did. I don't want that to be stolen from me. But at the moment, it's just not there. And that's the honest truth.